is loving kindness and compassion. But to get to that point, we need to work on separately loving kindness and compassion. So that's why it's important to talk about that and practice that. Otherwise, just looking at that, you could think, oh, I don't need to practice loving kindness and compassion, it's not there. Well, actually it is, but... Okay. Now, how do we practice this loving kindness? Is that we practice in stages. So if we understand what this genuine happiness is, we understand that these are the causes, and we understand how to practice these causes, then when we cultivate loving kindness for ourselves and others, the wish for ourselves and others to have happiness in its causes, then it has some meaning. And then that aspiration of loving kindness for ourselves would translate into us engaging in those practices. And that loving kindness for others would translate into us helping others to engage in these sorts of practices. Then loving kindness has some meaning. How do we practice this loving kindness? How do we develop this wish or aspiration? The text recommends we do it in stages. That we first cultivate loving kindness for people close to us, so-called friends, because it's most easy. Then we expand that out to include people we don't know very well, so-called strangers. Once we're comfortable with that, we expand it out further to difficult people, the so-called enemy, and then eventually we expand that out to all living beings. So generally it's mentioned 4 steps: friend, stranger, enemy, all living beings. But I think in our modern society we need to add one more step that's normally not mentioned right at the beginning, and that is to cultivate loving kindness for ourselves. And I think historically they never really emphasised that because people tended to feel okay about themselves historically, whereas I think in our modern society that's often not the case. Often we're suffering from low self-esteem and even self-hatred. So we need to start there. We need to first cultivate loving kindness to ourselves and then slowly expand out to others. And so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to do a loving kindness meditation where we're cultivating this aspirational wish in these stages that we mentioned. And then after the practice, I'd like to look at attachment, what it is, and how to distinguish that from loving kindness. Because here I think there's a lot of confusion about what attachment is and what's the difference between that and loving kindness. And then also we'll have a bit of a look at how to deal with attachment. But first, the meditation. As an act of loving kindness for yourself, allow your awareness to descend into the body, becoming aware of sensations throughout the body. And using the out-breath to relax and release any tightness or tension. Setting the body into a state of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. Allowing the breathing to settle into its natural rhythm. And setting the mind in a state of ease and relaxation. Simply allowing the mind to come to rest in the present moment. Focusing on the sensations of the breath throughout the body. Loving kindness is the wish or aspiration for ourselves and others to have happiness in its causes. And we can begin by cultivating loving kindness for ourselves and then expanding that out to others. No matter how much mental afflictions are in our mind, so no matter how much attachment and craving, anger and jealousy, fear and anxiety and so forth are in our mind, these mental afflictions are not part of the nature of our mind. They are merely like dirt covering the surface of our mind. And beneath these mental afflictions is the natural purity of our mind. So imagine this inner purity of your mind in the form of a small, white, radiant sphere of light in the center of your chest, at the level of your heart. And then arouse the thought, how wonderful it would be if I had happiness and its causes. May I be truly well and happy. And then with each out-breath, imagine rays of light radiating out from the sphere of light at your heart, filling your entire body and mind. Imagining it transforms into everything you need to be happy. So with each out-breath, breathe out the light of loving kindness, sending to yourself whatever you need to be happy in the short term and the long term. Then imagine you've now found that state of genuine happiness, that state of inner well-being, and simply rest in that state, resting in that inner purity of your mind. And just as you wish to be happy, so does everyone else. So next bring to mind someone close to you, a loved one of your close friends. And imagine them very clearly in front of you. And arouse the thought, how wonderful it would be if they had happiness and its causes. May you be truly well and happy. And then with each out-breath, imagine rays of light radiating out from the sphere of light at your heart, filling their entire body and mind, and transforming into everything they need to be happy. So with each out-breath, breathe out the light of loving kindness, sending to them whatever they need to be happy, in the short term and the long term. And then imagine that they've now found the genuine happiness that is their heart's desire. And take joy in this. Now allow your field of loving kindness to expand out to the person seated next to you. They are also just like yourself in wanting to be happy. So arouse the thought, how wonderful it would be if they had happiness in its causes. May you be truly well and happy. And then with each out-breath, breathe out the light of loving kindness, sending to them whatever they need to be happy. And imagine that they've now found that genuine happiness, that state of inner well-being. And take delight in this. Now allow your field of loving kindness to expand out further. And allow your mind to move around. And whoever comes to mind, whether it's a friend, someone you don't know very well, or even a difficult person, attend to them. May you be truly well and happy. And breathing out the light of loving kindness, sending to them whatever they need to be happy. And allow your mind to continue to move around. Whoever comes to mind, whether it's an individual or even a group of people, attend to them, breathing out the light of loving kindness. No matter how much light is sent out, it is sent out from an inexhaustible source that is in no way depleted. Allowing the mind to continue to move around, breathing out the light of loving kindness. What I'd like to do now is look at attachment. and in particular how to distinguish that from loving kindness. Attachment in Sanskrit is raga, and attachment is in Buddhism defined as a mental factor that sees its object as attractive. So attachment's a mental factor that sees its object as attractive. It exaggerates the object's attractiveness and then wishes to possess and hold the object. So again, it's a mental factor that sees its object as attractive. It exaggerates the object's attractiveness and then wishes to possess and hold the object. Why? Because attachment sees that object as a source of our happiness. Attachment is one of the main mental afflictions in Buddhism. There's what's called the three poisons. Ignorance, which is our distorted view of reality, attachment, and aversion, which we're going to look at tomorrow. And we are to eliminate these mental afflictions 100%. But often when people hear this, particularly attachment, that we are to eliminate attachment 100%, often there's a few doubts. And one is, if I eliminate my attachment, I think my life is going to become very bland and boring. I'm not going to be able to enjoy life anymore. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Now, craving and attachment interferes with our enjoyment of the simple pleasures in life. As we saw, that if we have craving and attachment for pleasurable experiences, usually with that comes worry and anxiety about not getting it, not getting enough of it, losing it, frustration when we don't get it, overindulging when we do get it, leading to suffering, and dissatisfaction and disappointment when it doesn't live up to our expectations. And we end up not enjoying the things we used to, because at some point craving and attachment says, sorry, that's not good enough anymore. I want something bigger, better and different. And if we reduce and eliminate our craving and attachment, we'll enjoy simple pleasures much more than we do now. And to highlight this point, I often give an example from my own experience. Many years ago, when I did my first long meditation retreat, I was in a retreat centre in Spain, side of a mountain, nice retreat cabin, and the retreat centre was providing meals, so I'd get a basket of food every day delivered near my hut. And while the food was quite nutritious, it was quite repetitive. And we know from our own experience, even if we eat something that we enjoy, if we have it too often, then at some point we go, oh, not that again. Because craving and attachment wants something bigger, better and different. My experience in retreat was exact opposite. After a month of eating this same food, it started tasting better. And I was convinced the cook was putting more effort into the cooking, maybe adding more spices or herbs or something. After a few more weeks, it kept tasting better. And then after about 6 or 7 weeks, I realised this is exactly the same food as 6 weeks ago. So what's changed? What's changed was, of course, due to being in retreat, mind is calming down, mental afflictions calming down, craving calming down, and so I was actually tasting and enjoying the food much more because of that. In fact, I can honestly say I've never enjoyed, at that point I'd never enjoyed food so much ever before in my life. And then also I was in a retreat hut on the side of a mountain, nice, beautiful view